tell us a little bit about the role of regression and what we do. And I know, at least where I'm from, there are many, many people who are quite fascinated with regression or past life regression. And often when they come to me as students, that is actually what they're hoping to learn in the first place. And share with us, at the Master Hypnotist Society, what our view is on that particular technique and in terms of helping people.
Well, boy, it just breaks my heart that so many people are caught up in that. But it's human nature, because it's like a soap opera. We're watching true crime dramas. So to give a foundation of how we see this, first, let's talk about the Satir model for a minute. And I understand that this is a very controversial topic because a lot of hypnotists see this very different than how we do it. So I'll do my best to help to make the case for how we go about reframing the past as opposed to regression. Keeping in mind that I was once a student of Irene Hickman. It's not like I haven't had extreme experience in the regression area. But I'm gonna suggest a different way to look at it. Opinions vary, but this is how we tend to frame it. So the first thing to keep in mind is that most people, when they're looking for regression, are looking for cause and effect relationships that have something to do with blame. Regression is the most likely thing to get a hypnotist sued. Regression can in fact create false memory or set up someone to find a reason why they are the way they are and label themselves that way instead of change. So we tend, if we're doing things like reframing the past, to look at it more like the concept of timeline reframing in neurolinguistics or the Dickens pattern, and using techniques that are generalized rather than the details of the soap opera that we tend to get sucked into in people's lives. Now, I've worked in the years that I was doing regression on cases that were legal, and I've worked on cases that were profound in what was taking place with folks. And so the only place that direct regression with extreme amounts of content would make any sense is forensic hypnosis. Forensic hypnosis isn't even allowed in many states and courts. It is admissible in others. And I've done a little of that in the 80s and early 90s. However, when you're talking about changing someone, helping them to change, helping them, then the end result of anything that you're going through to balance them out would be wisdom and forgiveness. The point of it would be getting the wisdom from the experience and then having the experience forgiven or let go of, or not tarnishing their labeling of themselves or others in the present. And then it would need to also be relevant in terms of what is it that they need as a skill out in the future? What actions do they need to take in the future? So goal number one is avoiding the concept of blame and deflection by accidentally giving a false cause and effect relationship between the past and the present. Goal number two is having the person level with themselves about what they control and how blame works in their head. Teaching the Satir model to the client is very important as a foundation before this even starts, where they understand blaming, placating, computing, distracting. Blaming, placating, computing, distracting. The idea that they can level with themselves. Now, whether we're reframing that past experience by showing them the limited model of the world of the people around them, where they're able to forgive, we would then go into a structure that's very similar to Hawaiian huna, ho'oponopono. Although we don't use other huna, the structure of ho'oponopono gives you a way to have the client visualize what forgiveness looks like within the brain. And so as you have this process of generalized forgiveness taking place, and you have this process of the freedom within their beliefs to acquire whichever skill or actions or resources that they happen to need, we're now in a process where this person's flexibility has been increased. So they're not thinking about their identity like they're a permanent adolescent. one of the questions I would ask is, do most of the well-adjusted adults have an extreme identity-oriented fixation? Or are they doing their life and having activities and able to focus on other people and themselves? Or are they completely caught up in my past, this happened to me? So we need to see that victimization as a concept within the brain is a fixating compulsion. A compulsion is anytime you associate pleasure and pain with the same thing. Well, victimization has both the relief from blame and the pain associated with the victimization. So it becomes a circle away from the pain toward the pleasure. It's like looking at something sparkly from a feelings point of view. So knowing that, it becomes important as a hypnotist to reframe or to assist in the reinterpreting in the same way that Charles Dickens did with the Christmas past, present, and future concept. And in the book, that was all consequence driven. In real life, in a hypnosis session, it has to be reward and success driven with an understanding of the consequences if the actions are not taken. But just finding a cause and effect relationship from the past is not healing in itself. And even when Hickman did what she did with regard to mind probe and whatnot, remember those sessions were 8-10 hours long sometimes. And she would be taking people through it until they had the wisdom. Dick Sutphin used to say, wisdom trumps karma. And so the thing that you got here with this, us being fascinated with the soap opera of what happened in the past, where we're wanting to be the saviors of these people, that is not healthy for the hypnotist to believe. We don't want the hypnotist to be the Messiah martyrs, not handling themselves well. Secondly, we don't want the client to believe, well, of course I'm this way, this happened. We need there to be 3 to 5 different ways of interpreting how to move forward in a useful and powerful way. And that isn't what happens when they nail down a cause and effect relationship that they start to think of as part of their identity. So are we giving resources, or are we giving reasons why the problem is there? And I think that we at Master Hypnotist Society have seen different outcomes, different results, and different enthusiasm from an approach that recognizes this, that reframes this from the screening.